It was a cold, misty morning when a strange sight caught the attention of passing FBI agents. As their black SUVs rolled down the narrow, deserted road, they noticed a scruffy golden retriever sitting calmly in the middle of the road. His fur was matted, and his eyes were filled with desperation as he barked at the agents, his gaze pleading with them to understand. The lead agent, Agent Parker, looked out the window, confused. He wasn't sure why the dog was there, but something about its demeanor struck him deeply. Without a second thought, he signaled for the vehicle to stop. The agents rolled down their windows, watching as the dog continued to bark with increasing urgency. "Hey, what's the matter with you, buddy?" Agent Parker called out, unsure if the dog was in danger or needed assistance. But instead of running away, the dog did something unexpected. It tugged at the sleeve of one of the agents, nearly pulling the man down with its persistence. "I think he wants us to follow him," Agent Daniels said, his voice filled with intrigue and concern. The agents exchanged wary glances. The road was desolate, and the dog's behavior felt unnatural. It seemed as though the animal was trying to communicate something to them. With no time to waste, Agent Parker sighed. "All right, let's follow him. But keep your guard up." The agents opened their doors, and the dog immediately began running down a narrow dirt path leading into the woods. The agents followed the golden retriever through the foggy woods. The trees were thick, blocking the early light and casting an eerie silence over the forest. With every step, the air grew colder. The dog didn't pause or look back, and the agents, who had dealt with criminals, danger, and countless high-stakes situations, couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The dog's eyes seemed to have a sense of urgency, almost as if it had a mission of its own. After what felt like hours of walking, the dog stopped in front of an old, dilapidated cabin. Its wooden structure was worn and broken, and the windows had been shattered long ago. The door creaked in the wind, barely hanging on its hinges. "This is it?" Agent Parker muttered under his breath, his gut churning with a sense of unease. The golden retriever barked once, loud and firm, before pushing his nose against the door, urging the agents to step inside. One of the agents hesitated, his hand hovering over his weapon. "It doesn't feel right, sir." But Parker was already stepping forward, his instincts telling him that there was something they needed to find inside. The dog stood still, watching them as they slowly entered the cabin. The inside of the cabin was dark, with only the light of the agents' flashlights cutting through the dusty air. Broken furniture was scattered across the floor, papers piled up in corners, and strange symbols were painted on the walls, all adding to the unsettling atmosphere. It was then that one agent noticed something under a large, torn tarp in the corner. Slowly, he lifted it, revealing a small, trembling child curled up on the floor. Her clothes were torn, her hair matted with dirt, and her eyes were wide with fear. For a moment, the room fell silent. The agents froze, and the dog, standing by the child's side, let out a soft whine, as if saying, "I found them. Help them." The agents rushed to the child, their training kicking in as they immediately checked for injuries. The little girl was malnourished, but her pulse was steady. One agent radioed for backup, while another stayed by her side, offering comfort. The dog sat beside the child, never leaving her side, watching the agents with an almost knowing gaze. It was as if the dog had been waiting for them, guiding them to this very moment. The agents could feel the connection between the dog and the child, a bond that went beyond simple companionship. As the emergency responders arrived and took the child into care, the agents gathered to speak with the little girl. She was hesitant at first, but eventually, she told them her story. The child had been kidnapped from her home weeks ago, held captive in the cabin by a criminal organization. She had managed to escape her captors for a brief moment, but the dog, who had once belonged to the family, had somehow found her. "He just appeared out of nowhere," she said, her voice shaking with both fear and relief. "He kept me safe. He wouldn't leave me alone." The agents were stunned by the revelation. The dog wasn't just a pet, it was a hero. The golden retriever had been left behind when the family was forced to flee. It had wandered the woods, waiting for the moment it could save the child. The agents were left in awe of the dog's loyalty and determination. "We owe him everything," Agent Parker said quietly, looking down at the dog, who wagged his tail softly in response. The child was safely returned to her family, and the golden retriever's heroism was celebrated by everyone. The agents couldn't help but marvel at the animal's instincts and bravery. In the weeks that followed, the golden retriever was adopted by a loving family, and the child, whose life had been saved, grew up surrounded by love and safety. The FBI agents never forgot the lesson that the dog had taught them. Sometimes, the greatest heroes come in the smallest, furriest packages. And as for the golden retriever, he had found his forever home, where he was no longer just a dog, but a guardian angel, whose courage saved a life and brought hope to all who knew him.